Hello, so I'm Marie from Punk Rock Creative Podcast, as you just introduced, and I've got poet Cherry B
Hello.
on the sofa, and there's Steve Drewitt.
Stevie D.
Stevie D.
Stop copying
Steve
me.
Drewitt from where you from? Newtown Neurotics. And you also do acoustic as well, don't you, Steve?
Yeah, and I write as well from time to time. Yeah.
Cool. We're going to be talking about everything creative, Harlow,
Yep.
the square, and I've got some questions, and you guys have got questions too. So
I've got questions about the question.
Yeah.
you got questions about the questions.
Yeah. We might even have a few answers. You never know.
Yeah.
We might get into that stage.
The first question was going to be like, who are you and what do you do? But I've kind of, I've answered that for you, really, haven't
Well,
I?
a little bit. You know, it's. I suppose. You know, this podcast is about being creative and also about being punk, and I suppose that means something different for everybody. But for me, it's about using my creativity as a writer, so as a poet, a novelist, writer. I'm also performing in a band as well, doing spoken words. And, you know, and that's just one part of being who I am, my identity, and being fueled by the kind of the punk scene of just being however you want to be, having that kind of... Doesn't mean we ain't going to jump up and smash things up. I promise you that. Well, I certainly won't. I haven't got the energy today. But it is about seeing things from a different perspective, and I think that's what creativity and punk together means to me.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I mean, creativity is a really important word in the sense of the validity of whatever you create. So, for me, I formed the Newtown Neurotics in 1979, and I played up until the 80s, playing straightforward, melodic but aggressive punk. And at that point in time, we had some illness in the band. Our bass player, Colin Dredd, became ill, and we decided to call it a day in 1988. At that point, I wondered what I should do. I realised that the stuff I was creating, I was really proud of, but it wasn't actually pushing boundaries. And I always thought that punk should be pushing boundaries. And I felt that I needed to do that to really, as I say, to validate this the idea that I have a creative soul that moves from one thing to another and not always be in one area. So I needed to do something different. So I got this idea, this valiant idea, which was destined to fail, that I would create a new form of music, right? I was incredibly influenced by some really punk-like DIY African music, and I thought to myself that why should Western music always be based in rhythm and blues or rock and all that? The rhythms from Africa were absolutely sublime, and I could just see, with this really earthy music that wasn't assigned to any major labels, it was just African labels, creating such vibrant music. Why can't I do a punk version of that? Why can't I play what I always play, but write with for a start, take the 3 minutes to a longer piece, so that the rhythms can actually get to breathe in it, and to create a completely different form of music, using my knowledge of punk rock to sit on top of the rhythms. The only way I could do that, because I don't live in Africa, was to actually find a group of people who I could say, listen to this and I want you to play like that. So I gathered a group of people. In fact, I went from being a three-piece for the Newtown Neurotics into being in the Steve Drewitt and the Indestructible Beat, which went from 3 to 8 people in there. And it was, and I told all of the people, the drummer, the bass player, the saxophonist and all that, this is how I want you to play. and gave them some of these African records. And I managed to get them to play brilliantly. And we made some fantastic music, and I wrote around that concept, and everyone all tumbled in on the idea, and it was absolutely brilliant. So I don't want to go on too much about this. The main thing was that creativity in Harlow. I created punk, Afro-punk was my new music. Afro-punk, and it was created from Harlow, not from Africa, you know. And it ended up being creatively an absolute success. Financially, it was a disaster.
Yeah, like most creative things.
And it never caught on anywhere. But I put our album on, because we made one album. I put it on sometimes, and I just love it. So, you know, sometimes creativity can be for yourself, or it can be for a small group of people, or it could be for thousands.
Yeah.
I've always been very proud of that. In the end, I gave it up because far too much work to keep a big band together and get them out to gigs and things like that. Yeah. I gave that up in the end. But creatively, I loved it. Yeah, but I never earned a single penny, and it was too much like hard work. Sorry. No, that indestructible beat bit had to come out on me before we could move forward with the rest of the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. I've just got image of Ian drumming on that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you both always lived in Harlow, and where in Harlow did you first live, or whereabouts in Harlow did you grow up? What can you tell us about Harlow?
Well, I grew up in Potter Street, which is on the dodgy side of the 414 in Harlow. It's more like a village, really. This was proper village, not like some of these Church Langley areas call themselves now when they try and disassociate with Harlow.
It's the village.
Yes. So we're a proper Harlow village in a way, Potter Street. Bad reputation, you know, and I think growing up and developing my own style and image around that area, you know, you took a few risks walking down the street in that part of the town. And it was a long walk to the square from there as well. It used to take about a 55-minute walk, but I did it. Used to always do it because it was worth it. And I think growing up, and I was drawn to the square when I was about 13, 14. Our mutual mate, Paul Howard, used to put on an alternative disco up there. So that would kind of lure me in all the way from Potter Street. It was just the long walk home that was a bit of a shit.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in Harlow since the age of 5. I've come from, actually, funnily enough, I lived no more than a street away from where John Lydon grew up. But he stayed living in that part of London, and I got moved because my mother worked for Costas. They come to Costas, the people who run Costas said, how would you like to relocate to Harlow? We're opening up a new factory there. And we were at that moment in time being evicted from where we lived in London. So we said, yeah, we'll go. Because you get a house. In those days, relocate with Cossa Industries, and we'll make sure you've got a home in the Newtown, Harlow Newtown. So what's not to like? So all of a sudden, after being a kid who played around in the streets of North London, ended up in this huge open expanse with brand new houses and estates going up all around me. So 5 years in London, and then the rest of my life in Harlow. And one of the, I don't know whether I should go onto it at this point, maybe not, but I'll come back to it later about my early days. You see, the thing is, I hated Harlow, right, at one point, and then I ended up loving it. And that we'll talk about that probably a bit further in. So that's me in Harlow. 5 years old, 71 now, so I spent quite a bit of time in it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, with Harlow, because I've lived in Harlow since 2014, and I lived over in Southend, and I've got to say, like, my kids have grown up there, and I've liked it. My neighbours have been brilliant. It's very, very much a community vibe. And I think because it's a new town, and it doesn't look, like as polished or as smart as some other places, it gets this bad reputation in Essex, which I find quite upsetting. And this is why I've brought you guys. I want to, like, sort of
big up Harlow.
Big up Harlow. And because it does. It's like the poor relation to Essex, and that I find that quite upsetting because it's actually not. It's actually all right, So next question. I mean, what first pulled you into punk, and what keeps you involved in punk culture?
I suppose once again it's that aspect of change and identity and alternativeness. I think quite often as teenagers we develop a youth tribe. We feel, right, what music do we like, what clothes do we like to wear? But I've always been quite fluid with that because I've just got such a vast amount of music that I love. I'm more half punk, half mod in a way, if there was ever a tribe, but it's because of the music and the fashion that I like. And I just think there's something energetic that needs to regrow. And I think, once again, like Steve was saying, creating our own style and own sound. The music I make, so I'm in a duo called Cherry and Peesh, and we formed about 8-9 years ago, and it's spoken word to really tuneful punk melodic songs, and there was no one else doing that at the time. So once again, it's creating another kind of edge and identity, and I think it is about keep moving forward. I've got two daughters. They're both in their 20s, and they kind of missed out. Certainly in Harlow, they missed out on the square. So I know this is one of the other questions. I told you we'd answer any. They all merge in, and it's harder for them to maintain their own identity in a way because there's nothing around. There's no base. I grew up, and Steve was an integral part of that base as well. Having a base, so you knew there was somewhere safe to go. Whatever you looked like, whatever you believed in, how you felt about the world, you knew you could go there. Being a young woman, I could go to a certain place, the square, and feel safe. I could walk in there by myself and everything. So I think having that punk is about, once again, creativity. It's about looking forward. It's about identity, and it's just about being a bit different as well.
Yeah, for me it was a bit different. I basically wanted to learn an instrument, and I bought a guitar, and I couldn't get on with it. I really could not. It was so frustrating. I got this lovely guitar. I thought if you bought a decent guitar, you'd be able to get a decent tune out of it. It was a lot harder, and it meant that I was going to have to commit far more focus to this thing than I ever thought. And when I looked at what was being played, it was almost like, don't stand on the stage unless you can at least play Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin before you even grace anything like a stage. So in the end, I gave up. I pushed the guitar under the bed where it started gathering dust. But that's the beauty of punk. I was in the right place at the right time. Punk exploded onto the scene. My dad said, there's a group called the Sex Pistols going to be on the TV in a minute. Do you want to come down and see it? I went, who? Sex Pistols. I went, nah. No, yeah, I'll come down. Right. Just on that basis, I nearly never come down. I sat there whilst my parents sank into quiet disgust and me in the middle elevated. I can't believe what I'm hearing. It was fantastic. So the idea was that, you start banging out a tune on your guitar and you learn in front of people. You don't learn in your bedroom. You go out and you start doing it. And that's what I did. The guitar come back up. I didn't bother dusting it. It all fell off when I was playing it. And then I formed the Neurotics, and then I started playing. And up until the reason why I wanted to learn to play guitar was I was having serious mental health issues as I grew up. I felt completely out of sync with everybody. Hence the name of the band, Newtown Neurotics. Mm-hmm. But actually, in the end, the forming of the band because of punk was the making of me. Not necessarily as far as a career is concerned, but actually just feeling in sync with things and being creative, where I wasn't before. I was a consumer, not a creative. I bought albums, I went to gigs. I didn't become part of that process. Once I did, I realised I was where I should be. And that's how I started. The reason why I hated Harlow was because my focus, to stand out from everyone else, write what you know. I looked around at the town, it was half built, and there wasn't enough for young people. So I really, really got into this idea that I wanted to express the alienation that I was feeling in the town. As the town developed and grew more mature and more services and more things, the square, we had somewhere where we could, a catalyst for creativity, and generally eateries and bars and things in the town become established. I warmed to it. And in the end, I looked at it as, after complaining about the alienation of Harlow for so much, I found out that I'd developed a Stockholm syndrome, in which I'd gone from hating to actually defending and loving. And as I grew older, I realised what it had given to me, even when I wasn't aware of it then, I certainly was. And then starting a family, I wanted the same opportunities that I had in Harlow for them too. So I'm, Newtown Neurotics, if we were a stick of rock, you'd find it all the way through. Newtown Neurotics. Harlow was my stick of rock.
Nice. I was going to say, can you tell us about the square and how would you describe the square to somebody who never went?
You want to take one?
It was, well, I could promote a bit. I've actually written a book about the square. Excuse me. It's called Back to Square One. And it's a novel about my first experience of going there. And I've somehow turned it into a thriller. That part of it isn't true. However, the autobiographical part and the nod to a lot of the bands and performers that played there as well. And it's just, am I allowed to swear? Is that a little bit, yeah. Well, it's basically, from the outside, it's a shithole. Basically a shithole. But inside, it was just this community. Like I was saying just now, it brought everybody together. The variety of music. Everybody was on stage at some point there. It gave the opportunity. I mean, as a young poet, I was like, oh no, I can't perform. I did my first gigs at the Square, getting up there and performing poetry. And it's been like that for everybody that's walked through that door. It was like this massive, you are welcome here, you are safe here. And I worry about the young people of Harlow now that don't have that space. Harlow is, I don't know if many of you have been there recently, but the flags are everywhere basically, and it's really kind of causing a lot of, community breakdown. It's causing a lot of divisions amongst people, amongst communities, and it doesn't feel like there's as many safe places to go anymore. There are, if you scratch beneath the surface, there are some lovely safe little places.
Church Langley.
Yeah, Church Langley.
No flat in Church Langley, just saying.
But so the Square is about this welcoming place of music and performing and creating, and I think that's what it's always been. Always was.
Yeah, the Square actually had a safe place for people who were creating, and we were swapping ideas quite a bit. I mean, early on, when I first started playing music with Newtown Neurotics, there wasn't anywhere in Harlow to play at all. We ended up playing our nearest, I don't know, we had to play village halls on the outskirts of Harlow because there was nowhere else to play. And then eventually, Bishop Stortford become the centre of everything because a triad in Bishop Stortford started hosting punk gigs, and we'd all used to go up there and we'd see all manner of bands. And that, for a while, was where everyone from Harlow and surrounding areas come together as a sort of community. But when the square opened up, for many Harlowites, that was great because we didn't have to travel all the way to Stalford and try to get back late at night from there. We had it in town. In the meantime, the Newtown Neurotics were trying to get signed as a band, but nobody was interested. So because of the DIY nature of the time, we formed our own label called No Wonder, produced our first single on that, and a second single for that matter, put ourselves out there. That got publicity, and we ended up getting signed because of that. But when the square opened up, everyone was saying, where did you go and record? Okay, and who did you use to press it up? And how did you get the money together for that? And then that information spread out until Stallbeat was created, which was, the next label in. Well, I can't recall whether our label, No Wonder or Stallbeat, was first, but let's just say that happened in that creative environment in the square, and then whereas No Wonder for us was a vehicle just for us. We did do a few other releases for people, but basically it was for us. Stallbeat was a label that looked around to see what creativity there was in the town, and then done quite a few releases and got them out and to national ears, as it were, because quite a lot of the stuff that ourselves and Stallbeat were putting out was taken up by John Peel, and he gave a lot of exposure, national exposure to the bands on there. One of the early punk bands on Stallbeat was the Sods, and they were quite influential to the Neurotics when we first started off. So you could see that we were bouncing off one another, not just in music, but also the creativity that's involved in putting a record out, the design of the record. So who can design? Who's good with putting the sleeves together? And all of a sudden, this is all coming together in what the square was initially a ping pong youth club thing, which turning into something quite astounding, really, and very invigorating for people of that time to start doing stuff again, like me. Not just being a consumer, but being a creator too. That's what it's all about, really, isn't it?
Yeah, everybody had their own part there.
Yeah, that's when rock music really comes alive for me, when you start actually doing something with it, or any art form, really, I would say. And that's what Square done for us.
Just gave you a place to, be something that you probably couldn't be in the mainstream world, or you weren't accepted, so you had that place to go to. And it's, I'm hoping, we're talking about this, about where, is it Occasion House? The place opposite the Playhouse.
Yeah,
that it's going to be something similar to the square. They're planning on doing something similar out there.
Yeah, it's funny though, I mean, there does appear to be some money going into a live venue, and that's good. And I hope it turns out to be exactly what we need. But the weird thing about it was that the magnificent environment that was created in the square come out of a youth club. It's just incredible to think about that. And think about this forward thinking. When the square first started, they used to have youth workers in there, and so in the evening, when there were bands on, there were people within the audience who was always there to raise an alarm if there was any sort of intimidation going on, or maybe because it was an Essex County Council establishment, obviously no underage drinking and no drugs. And when you go in there, you wouldn't even know there were youth workers in there.
But also,
they were employed just to mingle,
But also, like, I started going when I was 14, and you go in there, you go up the gig room, and there's a bar, and it's like, all right, half a lager, please. Yeah, of course. And it's like, whoa. But there were youth workers there that were just what, they were
Well,
just there for safety.
yeah,
weren't
I mean,
they?
and
They
this-
weren't saying you can't drink that, you can't have that. It was like, we're just watching. You're right.
Yeah, and
It was a really weird,
it's just where the safe space comes
Yes,
from, though.
exactly,
doesn't it?
yeah.
Because first and foremostly, the people that come to the square can enjoy an evening out without intimidation, regardless of what they look like, what their sexual orientation is, how they dress, or anything. Everyone's welcome, and even when the funding wasn't available any longer to have youth workers in the audience, that continued. And the thing about the square is everybody knew that, for females who wanted to go out on their own, the square's fine. You could go out and you knew you would face none of the things that you would experience if you went into a pub. It was a completely different environment, a safe environment where everyone just enjoyed themselves and had fun. And to the day it closed, that's the way it was.
Do you think we could get anything like that again? Like this plan of this new venue, do you think it would be something similar, or do you think that's all gone with the square?
When you think about it, the way that the square turned out from its original usage is remarkable, unusual, maybe unrepeatable. I don't know. As far as local government is concerned, the Playhouse has always been a very good resource for Harlow, even if it was, before there was the square, we always used to go to the Playhouse and occupy the downstairs bar, the foyer bar. That's where we met. If you go up there on a Friday, Saturday night, it'd be full of punks. It'd be full of people who are not watching the performance upstairs, but they meet down there. So local government provided a theatre, which is great for the arts and all that, but we were in a different level to that. We were grassroots creativity, not already established creativity, which was normally what was put on in the main auditorium or the studio theatre. So something good can come out of a new live venue in Harlow, but it's very difficult to know if it's going to be what expectations have now for people who went to the square, whether it's going to tick those boxes, whether it's going to be as vital for creativity, rather than, are we getting a live venue that, again, is for consumers of music, or is it going to be really open and available for people to create at grassroots level, and you don't have to worry about getting bums on seats when you start off? That it allows young people who have put a group together and they've really got something to offer, to be able to get on a live stage in front of a local audience and start their career at that point and let it blossom into something. Because one of the things about the square is, as rough and ready as it was, it did launch a lot of artists onto the, into the big time, as it were. George Ezra, for one. So, at the moment, we're hoping that a new live venue for Harlow will give what it needs to give. But the way that developers are and the way they wind back promises at this point in time, until it's actually physically there, we can only hope for the best and see how it goes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just trying to... We've answered some of
tick,
these.
tick,
yeah,
the
no,
episode
tick, tick, tick. We're on about meeting points. Yeah. Oh, you mentioned your book, which is a really good book, by the way.
I brought a few with me.
You've got a few with her if anybody's interested.
Always self-promotion. She's caught under my heel. Very, very professional looking there, yeah. But but there we go. It is about sometimes capturing those memories, because, like you're saying, these things won't now happen again. And even if a new venue did come along, it'd be a completely different group of people. Hopefully, younger people will embrace it and shape it in the way they want it. But also writing a book as a poet, bloody, what was I putting myself under, honestly? It was, and it's full of poems as well, actually, because I can't help myself. It's just inspired by the experiences I've seen, you know, from the square in Harlow, of meeting people, of, you know, seeing Steve on stage and later, you know, becoming friends. And it's just like everybody was attainable, everybody was creative, you learnt from everybody. And there wasn't really a book around that captured a lot of that. So, you know, it was a kind of one way of keeping the memory going. And you know, and I had lots of input from lots of different people. And it was just a pleasure to do, really. And I wrote it in 10 months.
So what current issues inspire or anger you creatively?
What? Sorry?
I couldn't get my words out then. What current issues inspire or anger you creatively? So what you like your current stuff, like your current poems, current songs? What current issues are inspiring that creativity?
Anything outside my own front door and beyond. The state of the nation, the state of the world, all of those things. You know, it's for me. There is an element of what I do where I sort of look into myself from times, but a lot of it is to do with the things that are happening around us and trying to make sense of them all. One of the things I've always found is that there is, you know, it's a fantastic feeling when you play music. You project this stuff from the stage and it actually creates a reaction within the audience and they respond to it, because the creation of a song or a poem happens privately and you hope that it's going to have the effect that you want it to, and then the proof is in the performance in front of a live audience. And when you get great feedback from that, it's like, I mean, I'm sure it's the same for you, Bev. You know, like when you perform for the first time and you get a good response, you want to get back on the stage again as soon as possible. It's just that inspiring, and it really does actually do something to the way you look at yourself in a positive light. If you can create something out of the things that have disturbed you, resonate with people, and they find something in what you do that they recognise, all of a sudden that feedback is inspiring, and so you want to keep on doing it. And you know, you almost feel like that the world makes sense when you're talking about it. Instead of reading stuff, you say, what the hell's going on? You make some internal sense of that. You put it into a form that people understand. You perform it to people and they go, you're right. That's a tremendous feeling.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do.
Yeah. I think punk is political, that's the thing. And I think a lot of people are kind of shying away from that a bit now, going, oh, you know, it's... We see a lot of kind of older punks that have gone a bit right-wing and have gone a bit different, and you kind of think, well, what's your roots from there in a way? So there's always something to write about, there's always issues, there's always something coming up, and it's always important to keep people feeling connected and understood. And once again, I think writing a song or a poem is about being empathic, because if someone else gets it, you've done the job there in a way. If someone else feels listened to and understood, then that's what works. And both myself and Steve can never shy away from politics, really, when it comes to the way that we write and the way that we perform, because it fuels our vision of the world and how divisive the world can be. You know, so currently at the moment, there's just so much going on, to the point where I don't know where to begin to write my next lot of stuff, really, because there's so much. And I think until the dust settles a little bit, when I can reflect and look at the impact that the world is turning into at the moment. And, you know, this isn't the first time we've all gone through this. There will be crisis after crisis, and we ride those waves and we just make sure everybody's okay and safe and listened to. we just try our best to get some of those messages out to show people that they're not alone. So
Yeah. And funny enough, I could talk about my inspiration. Obviously, I've already said the way that I got into music was because of seeing the Sex Pistols on the Bill Grundy show. But funny enough, once I got underway with what I was doing, writing songs, I found out that my inspiration was Samuel Pepys, the way he depicted what was going on in London during his era. I often think that I want to be able to write a song which people can look back on long after I've gone and understand what was going on within society at that time through my music. I've always wanted my songs to have hidden depths. There's a lot you can do with a few sentences. There's a lot of great writers have shown. And I've always wanted to aspire to have things that people can look back on and go, right, yeah, I can get a snapshot really of how things were these days, because things are changing rapidly now. And even when you look back at a few years back to how you were like 5 years ago and how the world was, radical change is happening. There'll be somewhere along the line where people won't understand what it was like to live through these times. So if art and culture can actually reflect that and have a marker to say this is what it was like living in those times, I think that's great, because people who are creating in the future can pull at those threads and recreate or extrapolate something from that. It's like modern folk music or modern oratory type of forms, like poetry, that is the tapestry of our times.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Yeah.
is that your new album title, The Tapestry of Our Times?
Yeah, that's a good one. Tapestry of our
No, I
times.
like that.
Not that I've got an album called that, but now I have to do an album called that. Don't I? I've now been given my direction.
Yeah.
What can music communicate that poetry can't? So it's like music versus poetry.
Oh.
Fight!
I just thought that as you did. Who's going to win the fight?
That's an interesting
Well,
question.
they can both exist on their own. You have wonderful music and wonderful words, so they can exist on their own. I know, I suppose being a poet, performance poet, and also being part of a band as well, where I have music to the words, it's kind of being sympathetic to the words. The words need to be heard, and I think that's really important. Sometimes in a lot of punk music, you can't hear. There's fantastic words going on, but you can't quite hear the message.
Yeah.
So to speak words over music that's kind of sympathetic to it I think is very powerful as well. Because I find when I've done gigs where it's just been me, so I often compare at gigs and festivals and things, and I come on and people are chatting and I've really got to shout. And sometimes it's hard to still be heard. But the minute guitar comes on, people go, oh, what's that tune? And they get into it and they move. So to see people moving to my words is like, ooh, this is weird, right. This is good.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's my experience.
Yeah, funnily enough, lyrics don't necessarily work as poetry. Sometimes for a lot of acts, what sounds really good when you hear the music and then you look at the lyrics, they've got like one good idea and then that's repeated. It's fairly lightweight. But actually, with the music behind it, it gives it weight. And actually, you can have one good idea and express it through your song and just keep on that one idea. And it's valid. It's good. It's made a point. But but it can be more than that. And sometimes you can almost fashion a lyric to tumble within the music in such a way that when you strip the music away, it feels like poetry. So I always do lyrics for the music, and then I look back at them and say, do these make any sense without the music? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But that's how creativity goes. You get a good idea, and the wonderful thing about being creative is sometimes your idea just comes out of the ether, it seems. Sometimes it feels like you have no ownership, really, over it. You just think, I did that. That's the most pleasing thing of creating anything, is to look at it afterwards and go, I did that. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I've found recently, at the age of 71, is listening to me when I had more energy than I have now. Is that me? These are great pleasure that I never thought I'd get to listen to my material years afterwards. Is to hear the verb, the excitement, the energy, the insistent delivery of an idea. And I'm still like that. I am still like that. But, let's be honest, I can't actually say, well, the speed has come down a bit. Mm-hmm. I can't play as fast as my younger self on my earlier records. It's impossible. Our drummer just goes, no, there is no way I can play that song again at that speed. I said, don't worry, because I can't go at that speed either. So we'll take it down a notch, and that's what we've been doing. We play our new material, which has been fashioned for the age that we are now, and we play our older material at the same level. But you know what? We could barely get all the chords in when we were younger. We just like that. So trying to get everything to fit in, so it was fast and urgent. And it is actually nice to play those songs at a slightly slower speed, because they actually got a lot going on in them. And now they have their own. There is room to breathe in them now.
Because when you're younger, you just want to get up there and you want to do it, and you're all excited and you've got so much to say, and it's like, it's all happening at once.
Yeah, it's a bit like premature ejaculation when you first start. It's all sound and fury and not very much of anything. But, this is what you learn, you see. You start to realise that the form in which you put your ideas across, when the ideas are really good, you want to make sure people hear them. So that's actually informs the music. So at a time you think, this line is great, so you drop the music out. You might not have done that if that line hadn't existed. So you sort of or something like that. Drop the music out, say your line, so it hits home, and then all the guitars and everything come back in. No, so and the same goes with if you're putting music to poetry. Again, I mean, I've done something with Attila the Stockbroker. It's an anti-fascist song. It's based on a track of ours called Mindless Violence, and what we did was we took some of the guitar lines out and dropped them in and out, and then the poem or the piece called Andy as a Corpus, Attila rants in the gaps. So it's actually, you drop music out, let the rant breathe, the words come out, maximum effect happens, then the guitar comes in when he takes a break, and then when it comes to the next verse, the guitars drop out again. Whereas the original song, Mindless Violence, was full-on guitars all the way through. So what we did, we just took entire chunks of guitar out, let the words breathe.
Okay, no fight needed.
No.
All's fair in poetry and music.
Yeah. It was explained really well, as it's, yeah. So, how does the energy differ? Oh, I've already answered that. It's like, how does the energy differ between gigs and spoken word events? I think you've sort of answered that in that question, haven't you, really? So, if you were to explore or create new collaborative projects together, what themes would you explore? You've kind of answered that, but, just say, let's put you both in a studio together. You're going to do, a spoken word music.
Well, we spoke about this the other day.
It's funny you should say. Did we say something?
Yeah, we've had so many conversations.
Yeah, I mean,
the dub.
We're operating. Is it right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're operating much from the same level because of the square. That's where we come up from. But I've written a book that is about my early years in Harlow, and it's not been published or anything, but I've just finished it. I've also done a book that is available as a Kindle book for £1. It is an interactive, hyperlinked story of a few years I was playing in Harlow and going off and playing at the Rebellion Festival. And that's called You're Always Alone with a Neurotic, which is still available as Kindle. But what we're getting here is that Bev has done a book about the square. I've done a book about the town, and I've done a smaller book about performing. But there is a lot more about the square and about Harlow still to come out. And I think, the reason for that is that Harlow was one of the first new towns. It's not the first, but it was the first one to actually be built on a village, basically. There wasn't very much of anything. It was mostly all fields, whereas a lot of the other new towns were built around an existing conurbation that was quite large. So Harlow was the blankest slate that any developer had to create a new town. And so we have a unique perspective in the sense. There are other new towns and there are more being built, but we have, the NHS wasn't long created when we moved into Harlow. The way that the health health was delivered within Harlow was innovatory. So we still got this unique perspective. So in a way, collaborating. If we were to collaborate on something, it would be around the square and about our memories of the past. Creating, again, if it's not music and it's in written form or a collaboration, making sure those ideas of what it would like to come up as a London overspill, in a social piece of social engineering, which Harlow Newtown was, and how we felt when we first got there and how we matured within that. That's a rich tapestry. Should we say there's a rich vein? Let's not go on the tapestry bit. We might get tangled up in the wall, but a rich vein of experiences that we could collaborate on. That's what I would say.
But the other thing we did mention it about our friend Chris. So our friend Chris is an amazing dub producer, and I've already recorded a few of his tracks, done spoken word over it, written some stuff, and I know he's invited Steve to do some as well. So I think there might be something around doing some dub stuff as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, with the squares not there anymore, but we still have certain contact points with people that are creative in Harlow still. And there is a venue called Phoenix Live, which is small, doesn't do everything the square might do, but once again, it is a bit of a catalyst for us. Both of us have performed on that stage on many occasions, and we're always really eager if anyone else is.
Yeah.
So there is still this availability of our contacts to still create stuff, whereas we thought it'd all be lost.
Yeah. I'm going to do a bit of promotion there as well. Actually, on the 7th of March, there is a Love Music, Hate Racism gig. I shall be comparing. Marie's performing as well. So, there's lots of different acts on. So if anyone wants to come over to Harlow, it's only like a £5 or something to get in. It's in the Harvey Centre with all weird places. It's like an old burger bar that's been transformed into this little venue. So it's like, so come along. Come and see a little bit of Harlow, what's going on.
Cool, and we'll end it there. And thank you for both being part of my crazy podcast enterprise.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having us. Thanks for listening and thanks for having us on and thank you. So we were Punk Rock Creators Podcast. Thanks everyone.